My name is Eli Cross, and I have been flying the same outer belt trade route for 5 years. Same corridors, same stations, same faces at the docking bays. Most people find that kind of routine boring. I find it useful, because when something changes on a route you know by heart, you notice it immediately. What changed on a Tuesday morning, 3 hours outside Kepler Station, was a Vithoran warship sitting dead in space, with no running lights and no response on any frequency. I had two options: keep flying and file a report at the next station, which was the sensible choice, or pull alongside and find out what happened, which was the human choice. I pulled alongside. The exterior of the ship was damaged in a way I had not seen before. Not weapons fire, not debris impact, but something structural, like the ship had been pushed past its own tolerances from the inside. The hull had buckled outward in 3 places and the main viewport was dark, and the whole vessel had the particular stillness of something that had been through something terrible and had not recovered yet. I suited up, crossed the docking bridge, and went in. The interior was cold and dark, and the emergency lighting gave everything a dim red color that made the corridors feel longer than they were. I moved carefully, one hand on the wall, following the layout logic of Vetheran ship design, which I knew from 3 years of docking alongside their traders at Kepler Station. I found the bridge first. Empty. Consoles dark, navigation locked, the captain's chair facing the forward viewport that showed nothing but black space. I found the crew quarters next. Empty. Every bunk, every locker, every personal space completely vacant, which told me the crew had evacuated, and the intact escape pod housings on the port side told me the evacuation had been orderly enough to use the pods properly. Then I found the room at the back of the ship that was not on the standard Vithoran layout. It was a research compartment sealed from the inside, and the seal was a manual emergency lock that could only be engaged from within. I knocked, because it seemed like the right thing to do even in an empty, damaged ship. And after a long pause, I heard movement on the other side. The seal disengaged slowly, and the door opened, and she was standing there with a hand on the frame and an expression that was equal parts exhaustion and the very specific look of someone who has been alone for a long time and is not sure yet whether company is good news or bad. She was Vithoran, tall and angular, with the deep blue skin and amber eyes of the northern bloodlines I had seen at Kepler Station. She was wearing a researcher's uniform that had seen better days and holding a data drive against her chest with both hands like it was the most important thing in the room, which I suspected it was. She looked at me for a long moment. "Human," she said. "Yes," I said. "My name is Eli. I picked up your ship on my route and came to check. Are you hurt?" She looked past me into the empty corridor and then back at my face, and the exhaustion in her expression did not leave, but something else came into it. Something careful and uncertain. "The crew left," she said. "I noticed," I said. "What happened?" She was quiet for a moment, deciding something. "Come inside," she said finally. "It is a long answer." Her name was Kale Dorn, and she was a research scientist for a Vetheran University program studying deep space energy patterns. The ship had been her transport, hired for a 6-month survey run, and the crew had been professional and reliable for 5 of those months. On the 6th month, they had found something. She told me about it steadily and without drama, in the precise way of someone who has rehearsed the sequence in their head many times during long hours alone. The survey had detected an energy signature in the outer belt that did not match anything in the existing database. The crew had wanted to report it immediately and leave. Kale had wanted to study it, document it, understand it before it was handed over to parties who might not handle it carefully. The disagreement had escalated over 3 days. The crew had decided finally that the signature was too unknown and the risk too undefined, and they had taken the escape pods and left her with the ship. "They left you alone," I said. "They were afraid," she said. "I understood it. That does not make it acceptable," I said. She looked at me with those amber eyes, and something in them shifted slightly. "Humans," she said slowly. "In my experience, when humans encounter something unknown on a trade route, they also keep flying. Most do," I said honestly. "You did not," she said. "No," I said. "Why?" she said. "Because the ship was dark and not moving, and nobody was answering," I said. "That is all the reason I needed." She held the data drive a little differently after that. Not against her chest anymore, but at her side, like she had put something down. We spent the next 2 hours going through the ship's systems together, because 2 people who both understand how things work can do in 2 hours what one person alone cannot do in 10. I knew cargo hauler architecture well enough that Vithoran design was not entirely foreign to me, and she knew this specific ship better than anyone. And between us, we got the main power restored, and the navigation back online, and the running lights on, so that the ship stopped. Ed looking like a dead thing in the dark. When the bridge lit up properly for the first time since the crew left, she stood in the center of it and looked at the running consoles with an expression that was quiet and private, and that I gave her a moment to have half. Then she turned around. "The energy signature," she said. "I have the full survey data on the drive. I need to get it to the university station at Delphi Point." She paused. "My navigation is restored, but the propulsion system needs parts I do not have." "I have parts," I said. "My hauler carries spares for most standard outer belt systems. The Thoran propulsion architecture is close enough to work." She looked at me steadily. "You would give your spare parts to a ship that is not yours," she said. "I would give my spare parts to get your data where it needs to go," I said. "That seems like the important thing here." She was quiet for a moment. "The crew that left," she said carefully. "They said humans always ran from the unknown, that it was a documented species characteristic. Survival instinct over curiosity, every time. They were not entirely wrong," I said. "Most humans do run." "But not you," she said. "I've always found the unknown more interesting than frightening." I said, "That is either a character strength or a significant personal flaw. I've not decided which." Something happened in her expression that was the closest thing to warmth I had seen from her yet. We transferred the parts across that afternoon, and I walked her through the repair sequence while she did the work, because it was her ship and her hands knew it better than mine. And by early evening, the propulsion system was reading green, and the ship felt like a living thing again instead of a cold, dark shell. She ran a full systems check at the bridge console while I stood by and watched the belt drift past in the viewport. The debris field out here caught the distant sun in small, cold flashes, and the energy signature she had been studying was somewhere out past the visible range, sitting quietly in the deep dark doing whatever unknown things do when nobody is watching them. "Delphi Point," she said when the check was complete. 4 days from here." 3.5, I said. "If you take the secondary corridor through the inner belt. Less debris, better time." She looked at me. "You know this route well," she said. "Same run. Every month. You learn the shortcuts. You could show me," she said. It was not quite a question. "My schedule has flexibility," I said, which was entirely true, and had nothing to do with the fact that I wanted to know what was on that data drive, and what she had found out in the deep dark of the outer belt that had been worth staying alone on a damaged ship for. We flay. When, in convoy, her Vithoran research vessel, and my battered hauler, through the inner belt corridor that I had found 2 years ago and never shared with anyone because the routes you discover yourself feel like they belong to you a little, I shared it now. She hailed me 3 hours into the run, not for any navigational reason, just to talk. And we talked for the rest of the first day and most of the second, and into the third, the way you talk when the conversation is easy, and the distance is long, and there is nobody else for light years in any direction. She told me about the energy signature, what the readings showed, what they might mean, why she had thought it was worth staying alone on a damaged ship in the dark to protect the data. Listening to her describe it, I understood completely. Some things are worth staying for even when everyone else has left. That is not stubbornness. It is just knowing what matters. I told her about 5 years on the same trade route, about the shortcuts I had found and the faces at the docking bays and the way you can fly the same corridor 100 times and still find something you missed the first 99 times if you are paying attention. On the 4th day, Delphi Point appeared on the long-range scanner, and she hailed me one more time before we reached communication range of the station. "I have been thinking about what I will put in the mission report," she said. "About the energy signature." I said. "About all of it," she said. "The crew leaving. The time alone. Being found." A pause. "Being helped." "What will you say?" I said. She was quiet for a moment. "I will say that the crew was wrong," she said, "about humans always running." Another pause, shorter this time. "And I will say that the most significant finding of the entire survey was not the energy signature." "What was it?" I said. "That the unknown is considerably less frightening," she said quietly, "when someone chooses to stay." Delphi Point filled the viewport and the station communications came online, and she had colleagues waiting and data to deliver and a report that was going to change things. And I had a delivery schedule and a trade route, and a port thruster that still needed looking at. We docked on opposite sides of the station, and I did not see her again before I had to leave for the next run. But 3 days out on the inner belt corridor, my comm signaled on a private frequency. It was short. No name, but I did not need one. It said, "The report is filed. The secondary corridor is now in the official charts." They asked how I found it. I told them a human showed me. They asked which human. I said, "The one who stayed." I read it once, then I set the comm down and flew my route and watched the belt move past in the deep, quiet dark. And I thou, but about how the things worth finding are almost never the things you set out looking for. They are the things you find when you stop and pay attention to the dark ship with no running lights that nobody else stopped for. That is the whole secret, really. Stop, pay attention, stay. The rest takes care of itself.